Part 25. The Sweetness of the Seventies. Author, Chi-Sing Cao. Chapter 243. 241. Fortunately, there was Zhou Yuan Chao, otherwise Huo Yingzhe would have jumped into the Yellow River and never recovered. Xiaozhou, is Zhou Yuan still inside? Director Lu asked. It's best not to be inside. In that case, the matter will be relatively easy to solve. It's still inside. I've been at the door and didn't dare to go in, Zhou Yuanchao replied, eager to see how Director Lu would solve this matter. Director Lu took his assistant Xiaomi into Huo Yingzhe's dormitory and saw someone under the quilt on the bed, with the head exposed and black hair scattered on the pillow. Director Lu walked to the bed and asked, "Is it Xiaozhou?" When Zhou Yuan heard the sound, she lazily opened her eyes and pretended to be surprised. Huh? Director Lu, why are you here? Haha, I also want to ask you, why are you here? Director Lu said as calmly as possible, it's not been a day or two since you came to the institute. Lesbians are not allowed to come to the dormitory of single gay men. Don't tell me. You don't know this rule. Yes, no one is allowed in, but if Huo Yingzhe invites me over, that's a different matter, Zhou Yuan said calmly, with a rather triumphant laziness in her tone. Huo Yingzhe asked you on a date, Director Lu said in disbelief. I know you admire Huo Yingzhe, but Huo Yingzhe has already sternly refused, so why would I invite you over? Zhou Yuan's little trick is too childish. Compared with this poor excuse, Director Lu admires Zhou Yuan's courage even more. Yes. Climbing up walls, climbing through windows, and crawling into a man's bed in the middle of the night is not something ordinary people can do. Yes, not only did you date me, but also. Even though Zhou Yuan is very courageous and paranoid, she is still a girl after all. For the sake of so-called love, she will take risks and talk about those private things. Things are still a bit embarrassing. Zhou Yuan didn't finish her words, but directly opened a corner of the quilt, revealing the red and purple marks on her neck. Yeah, Director Lu took a cold breath. Didn't Huo Yingzhe say nothing and do nothing? So where did these marks on the body come from? It can't be Zhou Yuan's fault for pinching herself, right? He. It was really Zhou Yuan who pinched it herself. This woman is cruel to others, but even more cruel to herself. Director Lu quickly calmed down and said, no matter what, this is a gay dormitory after all. You'd better put on your clothes quickly. Seeing that Director Lu was doubtful, Zhou Yuan stopped being shy and got dressed in front of Director Lu and assistant Xiaomi. At this moment, all the red and purple colors on Zhou Yuan's body fell into Director Liu's eyes. Xiaomi is an unmarried girl. She blushed when she saw the traces on Zhou Yuan's body. Unexpectedly, Huo Yingzhe, a gentleman, is actually a beast in disguise. Zhou Yuan put on her clothes, blushed, and said, Director Lu, I believe the institute will give me an explanation. Explain. Director Lu has a big head. The unit will investigate, Director Lu said vaguely. She was not a young Xiaomi and was easily confused by appearances. Compared to Zhou Yuan, Director Lu still believed in Huo Yingzhe more. Although Zhou Yuan was dissatisfied with Director Liu's words, she also knew not to act too hastily and anger Director Lu, which would not do her any good. Only she insisted that she and Huo Yingzhe were already married, and both the research institute and Yanjing's family would support her. When Zhou Yuan saw Huo Yingzhe outside, she looked shy and said, Brother Yingzhe. The voice is sweet. Huo Yingzhe took 2 steps back, shuddered, and said, You, this unruly woman. The education Huo Yingzhe received since childhood prevented him from saying those unspeakable words. This was already the most unpleasant thing he could say. Zhou Yuan is a woman. In the specific environment of the research institute, he cannot touch Zhou Yuan, but the Zhou family. Zhou Yuan felt sad. She did this for the future of the two of them. Why didn't brother Yingja understand her feelings? You, how could you say that about me, Zhou Yuan said sadly, and it's you, now that we're all like this, why are you still so heartless? Huo Yingja was stunned. He and Zhou Yuan had nothing. You can eat randomly, but you can't talk nonsense. I have nothing to do with you, Huo Yingja said. I didn't before, I don't have it now, and I won't have it in the future. You can't say that. You got my body, I am already yours, you have to be responsible for me, Zhou Yuan said loudly. She is willing to go all out now, and she must succeed this time. It worked, and she got her wish. If you fail, your reputation will be ruined. So she must go all out and succeed. At this time, other people heard the noise outside and came out of the house one after another. When they heard Zhou Yuan's words, they took a deep breath. Zhou Yuan is a flower in the hospital. She is beautiful. It is said that she comes from a good family and many people want to get close to her. However, this high-altitude flower already belongs to someone, and the person they belong to is the most outstanding young talent in the institute, so everyone gave up and did not dare to pursue it. But Huo Yingja has a partner and doesn't like Zhou Yuan, which makes some people have some thoughts, but more people want to see the farce between Zhou Yuan and Huo Yingja. I thought that the farce in the cafeteria and at the door of the research room was already violent enough, but I never expected that today it would actually happen in the gay dormitory. Oh my goodness! Got my body? Am I already yours? This Huo Yingja is, too different, isn't he? However, there are also some people who do not believe Zhou Yuan's words. If Huo Yingja liked Zhou Yuan, he would have given in to Zhou Yuan's fierce pursuit long ago, so don't wait until now. Okay, you come to the office with me. This matter must be dealt with seriously, Director Liu said with a dark face and asked the two of them to leave here quickly. Otherwise, if there are more and more people and people talk too much, I don't know what will happen in the future. Huo Yingja turned pale with anger and his blood rushed to his brain. Zhou Yuan cried softly, but actually she was very excited inside. I met many people along the way and everyone was very curious. Huo Yingja and Zhou Yuan haven't arrived at Director Liu's office yet. The news that Zhou Yuan lost her virginity to Huo Yingja has spread throughout the institute. General Engineer Sun also got the news. After understanding it personally, he went directly to Director Li of the hospital and asked someone to notify the security office of the Ministry of Education and Political Science. After all, Zhou Yuan is a doctor in the hospital, and Director Li has to come over no matter how busy he is. General Manager Sun believed in Huo Yingja, but at the same time he did not want Huo Yingja to have such a stain. How can we prove that Huo Yingja did not have a relationship with Zhou Yuan? Chief Engineer Sun asked Dean Li as he walked away. Dean Li is proficient in Chinese and Western medicine and is a doctor with superb medical skills. When Mr. Sun asked this question, he did not answer immediately, but asked instead, "Are you so sure that Huo Yingja didn't do such a thing? After all, Huo Yingja is very young and full of blood." A young and beautiful girl throws himself into his arms. Many people can't refuse. I recommend Xianqi's new book Vital Color and Medical Fragrance. As the saying goes, a melon that is strong is not sweet. Someone, who said that? I twisted, it was sweet. A certain melon. Please give me a reward at the 6th update. Genuine subscription. The Sweetness of the 70s. Author, Chi Xing Cao. Chapter 244. Chapter 244 Rejection, 1540 plus. 242. Dean Li said this, "It is human nature and many people think so." General Manager Sun smiled and said, "If it were anyone else, I wouldn't be so sure, but if it were Huo Yingja, I believe him. Although this young talent has not been in the institute for a long time and is not very old, His mind and self-control are no less than those of a mature and steady middle-aged man. Really, Dean Lee and Mr. Sun are good friends. After hearing this, he had a slight change. Yes, he is a child who values love and justice. He is very calm and would not do such a thing. Furthermore, he has a woman he loves deeply and has kept his distance from Zhou Yuanyuan. In the end, Huo Yingzhe worked continuously day and night. When I returned to the dormitory at 8 o'clock last night, would a normal person be so brave? Mr. Sun said. Huo Yingzhe is a good young man, and he will not let others slander Huo Yingzhe. Oh, I'll be more careful later, Dean Lee said. Generally, a woman can check it out after having sex. Thinking that the other party was a woman, Dean Lee brought another female doctor and nurse. When necessary, a physical examination is required. Director Liu had just arrived at the office. Before Huo Yingzhe and Zhou Yuanyuan could sit down, someone from the security office of the political department had already been sent over. General Engineer Sun, Director Li, female doctors and female nurses also came. Huo Yingzhe, how do you explain this matter? Director Liu asked. Everyone is here, we can start. Huo Yingzhe said righteously, I was too tired. I slept so deeply that I didn't know anyone came in during the night. I didn't know until Zhou Yuanchao came back the next morning. Zhou Yuanyuan lowered her head with a smile on her lips, but the moment she raised her head, her face showed bitterness and she choked with sobs. Brother Yingzhe, why do you say that? You obviously invited me here, but now you deny it. How do you tell me to behave? Are you trying to force me to death? Huo Yingzhe clenched his hands in anger. How could there be such a shameless woman? I've been busy at work all day, and I didn't make an appointment with you. Don't talk nonsense. I, Huo Yingzhe, work openly and above board, and I haven't touched you in the slightest. Huo Yingzhe said coldly. You love me, but I have already rejected you. A woman like you, it will only make me disgusted, and I will feel disgusted when I see your shameless face. You. Zhou Yuanyuan said sadly and desperately, unbuttoning a button on the top of her jacket and pointing to the mark on it. Anyway, you already wanted me yesterday, and this is the evidence. Huo Yingzhe saw those marks that looked like hickeys, took 2 steps forward, reached out and slapped Zhou Yuanyuan hard twice, and cursed, just make a few bruises, and then say I raped you, and you treat me as a scapegoat, right? Who knows if you pinched yourself or if you were fooling around with someone? Are you a doctor? Even though you don't know the criteria for determining rape, you should also know how to identify the symptoms. Now that the people from the security department are here, I am now officially reporting you for slandering my innocence. I also ask the unit to investigate and deal with it strictly and restore my innocence. You can't hold up your pants and deny it. Take my body, and... Zhou Yuanyuan was flustered, covering her face that was slapped by Huo Yingzhe, but she still insisted on her previous opinion. When the people from the security office saw Huo Yingzhe beating someone, they quickly grabbed Huo Yingzhe. Huo Yingzhe was also furious, his arm was pulled, but he could still speak, and cursed with a venomous tongue. Huo Yingzhe, take off my pants or pull up my pants, it has nothing to do with you. I am a man, if a man also has a virginity membrane, if so, my virginity must be there. As for whether you, an immoral woman, are there, I don't know, but the doctor will know if you have sex or not. If you have sex, let the doctor check it. Cooperate with the inspection and go to my bed to check. If you can find one of my little tadpoles, I will rape you. Only then did Zhou Yuanyuan notice that there were many people outside, including Director Li from the hospital, doctors and nurses. The 2 and 3 serious-looking people outside were probably people from the security department of the political department. Under the gaze of everyone, Zhou Yuanyuan's face turned pale. She knew clearly that nothing happened last night, and the marks on her body were caused by herself this morning. Maybe I could hide it from Director Liu, but I couldn't hide it from the doctors. I, I. Zhou Yuanyuan stammered, no longer as determined as before. Director Lu took one look and knew that Zhou Yuanyuan had nothing to say. Everyone is here now. If you insist that Huo Yingzhe and you had something more than revolutionary friendship, we will organize doctors to examine you and Huo Yingzhe now to prove whether what you said is true, a comrade from the security department said. Before, they investigated Zhou Yuanyuan's matter and planned to have a result in the next 2 days. Now Zhou Yuanyuan has caused such a thing again, which has seriously affected the work of the institute. Zhou Yuanyuan quickly buttoned up her clothes, folded her arms with her hands, lowered her head and said nothing. If you insist on not expressing your opinion, we will conduct a physical examination based on what you said before. The people from the security office continued. Even a fool can see that Zhou Yuanyuan is framing Huo Yingzhe this time. No, Zhou Yuanyuan didn't want to be inspected in such a private place, partly because of shyness, and partly because what she told was a lie. After inspection, the truth came out, proving that she framed Huo Yingzhe. But if she admits it, will her humiliation today be wasted? No, even if she couldn't conquer Huo Yingzhe in the research institute, she could still create opportunities outside. Huo Yingzhe and I have never had anything more than a revolutionary friendship. Zhou Yuanyuan gritted her teeth and said, feeling very angry. Huo Yingzhe and He Tiantian have never been as humiliated as they are today. Today's humiliation will be repaid 100 times in the future. If she can't get Huo Yingzhe, she will destroy him with her own hands and won't let other women get it. Huo Yingzhe finally breathed a sigh of relief when he saw that Zhou Yuanyuan did not continue to talk nonsense. Damn it! This woman is a lunatic. Then what's your explanation for what happened today? The person from the security office continued to ask, holding a notebook beside him to record it. Zhou Yuanyuan said with an expressionless face, just because I like Huo Yingzhe, but Huo Yingzhe doesn't like me. Because of missing me, I climbed the wall and the window to enter Huo Yingzhe's dormitory. I watched Huo Yingzhe sleeping, and unknowingly I fell asleep and nothing happened. Do you know what you did is against discipline? The staff member asked. Is it wrong for me to love Huo Yingzhe? Zhou Yuanyuan asked, her eyes sad. The look of Zhou Yuanyuan's pear blossoms in the rain did not make Huo Yingzhe feel good looking, but made her even more disgusting. I don't like you, so what's wrong? Huo Yingzhe said impatiently, I've told you many times, I have a woman I like, and you and I can't be together. If you are so stubborn, you will end up harming others and yourself. I just. Zhou Yuanyuan was so sad that she couldn't speak anymore. She covered her face and kept crying. I recommend my completed old books The Wine Lady and A Married Woman. Friends who are not interested in reading can check it out. Those who have monthly tickets can grab red envelopes and give me rewards, haha, asterisk carrot. Carrot asterisk, hee hee. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Sweetness of the 70s. Author, Chi Sing Cao. Chapter 245. Chapter 245, Drawing Firepower from the Bottom of the Cauldron, 1560+. 243. Don't cry. This is not the only thing you violated discipline, said the person from the security office, and took out the breakup letter Zhou Yuanyuan had written to He Tiantian, which also contained a photo of Zhou Yuanyuan. This is a letter you wrote in fake Huo Yingzhe's handwriting. It violates the regulations of the institute. You will be transferred from the institute within 3 days, expelled from the party, punished, and recorded in the files. What objections do you have? After something like this happened, Zhou Yuanyuan also knew that she no longer had the face to stay here, so leaving might be a good choice. As for Huo Yingzhe, that is a stone, with a heart of stone. Since she couldn't impress Huo Yingzhe, then she would deal with He Tiantian. If He Tiantian dies, then Huo Yingzhe will eventually get married, and then it will be her chance. If she hasn't got what she wants, she will do it herself. No objection, obey the unit's decision, Zhou Yuanyuan whispered. This time she failed again. But this strengthened Zhou Yuanyuan's determination to deal with He Tiantian and possess Huo Yingzhe. Everyone saw that Zhou Yuanyuan had realized her mistake and did not intend to pursue it. After all, it was related to the woman's reputation, and Zhou Yuanyuan was also a person with a background. They could not be too harsh. The staff member had already written the confession, showed it to Zhou Yuanyuan and Huo Yingzhe, and said, "If the situation is true, please sign it. Please stop this matter." They had just sent some people to inspect Huo Yingzhe's dormitory. It was indeed Zhou Yuanyuan who slandered Huo Yingzhe. The mistake was established, but the secret was not leaked, so the punishment could not be too severe. Huo Yingzhe read it carefully and found that the process of how Zhou Yuanyuan framed him was written on it. The situation was true and he signed his name. Huo Yingzhe had already guessed that this would be the result, and he couldn't really send Zhou Yuanyuan to prison. But through this time, Huo Yingzhe also realized that Zhou Yuanyuan dared to be so arrogant. Wasn't it because the Zhou family and the Huo family were equally matched and had no fear? In this case, there is no need to be polite to the Zhou family. Huo Yingzhe was planning to attack the Zhou family to drain the fire. Zhou Yuanyuan, who had no one to rely on, would be like a snake without fangs and would be vulnerable to a blow. Zhou Yuanyuan had no choice but to sign her name. In front of everyone, Zhou Yuanyuan apologized to Huo Yingzhe, but she couldn't hold back the tears of humiliation and cried loudly. It is said that children who cry are fed by milk. Zhou Yuanyuan cried so sadly that she gained sympathy from some people. Huo Yingzhe didn't want to have too much involvement with Zhou Yuanyuan, so he left after signing the contract, not wanting to see Zhou Yuanyuan cry. Although those tears were shed for him, he didn't have Zhou Yuanyuan in his heart, so he had no feeling for her eyes. He only asked Zhou Yuanyuan to stay away from him in the future and not appear in his sight. Huo Yingzhe was worried that after Zhou Yuanyuan left the institute, she would return to Yanjing and talk nonsense. He wrote 2 letters himself to explain the whole story of the request. He also told his grandparents about the investigation by the security office so that they would have peace of mind. At least when facing Zhou's family, he can face it calmly. The Huo family did not feel sorry for the Zhou family. They also asked the Zhou family to take care of their daughters and granddaughters and not do things that were disgraceful. 3 days later, Zhou Yuanyuan disappeared from the research institute and was taken away by people from the security department to be punished. Because of Zhou Yuanyuan's paranoia and madness, several departments were punished. Everyone wanted to send Zhou Yuanyuan away as soon as possible. Huo Yingzhe finally felt relieved and could work with peace of mind. The rumors in the institute did not disappear just because Zhou Yuanyuan left. Others were curious, and Huo Yingzhe's assistant was also curious. When he was free at work, Qian Miao Miao asked Zhou Yuanchao in a low voice, "Brother Zhou, is it true that the boss and Zhou Yuanyuan have nothing more than friendship?" "No, really not," Zhou Yuanchao said, with his old-fashioned look. "How can he do such a thing?" Qian Miao Miao raised her head and glanced at Huo Yingzhe who had entered the laboratory. He looked like a different person. He swallowed carefully and said, "I don't think the boss can do those things. It's just that Zhou Yuanyuan left, and everyone was talking behind his back. It's such an ugly thing to say." "Humph," Zhou Yuanchao sneered, "with all this time for gossiping, those people might as well do experiments. The matter itself is very simple, but out of jealousy, some people like to watch the boss's jokes to make up for them. The gap is caused by your shortcomings at work. You are in our group, so you can't be like those people who don't know what is right and what is wrong." "Of course I won't," Qian Miao Miao said, "our team has achieved such great results, but it is all the credit of the boss. We also learned a lot of knowledge as assistants." "Brother Zhou, you are right, Those people are just jealous of us. Just understand it in your heart. Follow the boss for a few years and I'll make sure you can be on your own in the future, Zhou Yuanchao said, giving reassurance to the team members and telling them not to mess up. The boss is busy working all day and has no idea about the rumors outside. You two are here to watch. I'll go back and rest first. I'll come over to replace you tomorrow morning. Huo Yingzhe came over and rubbed his brows to refresh himself. He was too tired and needed a rest urgently. Zhou Yuanchao saw that Huo Yingzhe was so tired. He originally wanted to talk about the rumors about the research, but he swallowed it and stopped talking. Boss, you go back and have a good rest, Zhou Yuanchao said. Xiao Qian and I are here to keep an eye on you, so don't worry. Huo Yingzhe nodded, went to wash up briefly and left the laboratory. Walking on the way from the research room to the dormitory, Huo Yingzhe looked up at the sky. The stars are particularly bright today, blinking like bright gems, and like He Tianatian's bright eyes. Zhou Yuan's departure made Huo Yingzhe feel relieved. The busy work made him temporarily forget his worries and his longing for He Tiantian. It has been almost a year, and he has done some things, but it is far from enough. Things didn't go as he planned, and there were many unexpected events. This is an era of chaos, and it is also an era of sanity and madness. How to remain invincible in this era requires more strategies, even tricks. And more blood and humans. He heard some rumors in the institute in the dormitory, but he didn't care. The more you explain such rumors, the less those people will believe it. Anyway, as long as the organization believes in him, it doesn't matter to others. The research institute is just a springboard for him. As long as he works hard, does well, and becomes the top talent, he will have more initiative. Like the holidays coming soon. If there are no good results, who dares to mention it to Mr. Sun? Huo Yingzhe was excited when he thought about the 20-day holiday. The hardship and fatigue before are nothing. On the way to Huo Yingzhe's dormitory, he also met some former colleagues. After saying hello, after Huo Yingzhe walked away from his back, he started talking quietly behind him. They thought Huo Yingzhe couldn't hear it, but Huo Yingzhe had a strong hearing, and every word fell on his ears. These people are really boring. As Zhou Yuanchao said, if you have the ability to make up lies behind your back, you might as well think about your work. If they also have such rich imagination at work, perhaps the work progress will be faster and the achievements will be greater. I don't want to think about it anymore. I'm too tired. It's time to take a good rest. Without Zhou Yuan, Huo Yingzhe could finally open the window safely and boldly while sleeping. The Sweetness of the 70s. Author, Qi Xing Cao. Chapter 246. Chapter 246 The Powerful Old Man and Old Lady, 1580 plus. 244. Let's say that Grandpa Huo, Grandma Huo, and Huo Jekian's wife received Huo Yingzhe's letter and couldn't believe what they saw. Did the girl from the Zhou family really go to Yingzhe's research institute this week? Huo Jekian said hesitantly, obviously not believing it. During the Chinese New Year, Huo Yingzhe had already sternly rejected Zhou Yuan. Generally speaking, for this reason, the little girl would give up. Hey, the girls of the Zhou family are not simple, sister-in-law Huo pursed her lips and said. Her daughter Huo Yingqi and Zhou Yuan are good friends. I wonder if they will also be influenced by Zhou Yuan. Mr. Huo did not speak, but picked up the letter, read it again, and finally said slowly, that girl is a curse. Mrs. Huo also nodded and said, yes, I have even done things like impersonating Yingzhe's handwriting, and there is nothing I can't do. I really underestimate this girl Yuan. Huo Jekian frowned, thought for a moment, and said, how about I go to Hao Zhou's house and talk about it? What are you talking about? Mr. Huo said angrily, that their granddaughter is shamelessly pursuing Yingzhe. Or is there something wrong with her granddaughter's brain? Then what should we do, Mrs. Huo was helpless. We can't sit still and wait for death. That kid Yingja has a tight workload, and he has to be distracted from dealing with these messy things. Not to mention, that kid Yingja who is the key is also stubborn. Whatever he wants to do, he must accomplish it. If he doesn't like Zhou Yuanyuan, he won't like it in the future. He likes He Tian, and he will regret it for the rest of his life. Mrs. Huo knows her grandson very well. If he really couldn't be with He Tian, Huo Yingja would regret it for the rest of his life. Actually, to be honest, the girls in the Zhou family are not bad, but they are a little stubborn. Sister-in-law Huo said that the second sibling had no trouble at home. Now that Huo Yingja is in trouble, she feels a little more balanced. What's so good? If you marry a woman like this, she'll be a troublemaker, Huo Zhe said, not having a good impression of Zhou Yuanyuan at all. In my memory, Zhou Yuanyuan was still a very cute girl, but I didn't expect that she would become like this when she grew up. Then Zhao Huan is not a troublemaker, sister-in-law Huo said, dissatisfied. Although her son and Zhao Huan were engaged and planned to get married at the end of the year, she felt uncomfortable. Seeing that his eldest daughter-in-law was serious again, Mr. Huo shook his head and said, that girl Huan is very independent, but at least she won't do anything to discredit herself and her family. Look at what Zhou Yuanyuan did this time, and you don't know who she learned it from. Haha, of course she learned it from her grandma. She has a long history in family education, Madame Huo sneered. They keep saying that for the sake of love, they gave up on arranged marriages and formed a revolutionary partner. Mom, is there still something like this? Sister-in-law Huo asked curiously. She usually saw Aunt Zhou looking aloof, but she didn't expect this to happen. Mrs. Huo and Mrs. Zhou have always had a bad relationship, and they probably just don't like Grandma Zhou. Isn't it just a heartless person? The literary young woman is a mess. Originally, Lao Zhou didn't agree, but she, a big girl, stalked, chased and intercepted her. After a long time, she really made it happen, Grandma Huo said with a smile. Since we can't go to the Zhou family directly to talk, then Zhou Yuanyuan can't stay in the institute. If it's hard to move Zhou Yuanyuan, then transfer Yingja out. If Zhou Yuanyuan is allowed to cling to Yingja, something will happen. Grandma Huo really guessed it? Everyone agreed. Just when they started to transfer Zhou Yuanyuan back, they received another letter from Huo Yingja. This time, when Mrs. Huo saw the letter, she scolded her directly. You old shameless person has raised a shameless little one. He only knows how to crawl into bed, have sex with concubines, and so on. That's a despicable thing. In everyone's impression, Mrs. Huo is very gentle. Even if she is angry, she never speaks and never speaks harshly or curses. But this time I was really angry. Drink some water, don't be angry, your health will be bad if you are angry. Mr. Huo personally brought a glass of water to his old wife. Children and grandchildren will have their own blessings. Yingja is a child who can handle things clearly and will not do stupid things. We can't let this matter go. I'm going to the Zhou family now, Mrs. Huo said. Even if we don't talk about this matter, the Zhou family will know it very quickly. We can't let them pretend to be wolves and refuse to give us anything in explanation. If you rush over in such excitement, what do you think you should do if they turn around and say that Zhou Yuanyuan has suffered a loss? Mr. Huo pulled the old wife who was about to leave. Even if a woman takes the initiative in this kind of thing, she is still in a weak position after all. Everyone will sympathize. At first, everyone may think that Yingja is at a disadvantage, but as time goes by, everyone will not believe that Yingja spit out the meat in his mouth. Hey, Mrs. Huo sighed, this won't work, that won't work either, so what should we do? Yingja is a steady child, and if he hadn't been forced into a hurry, he wouldn't have written such a harsh letter. Haha, don't be anxious, don't be anxious. Mr. Huo saw that his wife's hair was a little messy due to the big move just now. So he reached out and put a few strands of hair behind her ears to comfort his wife. The matter is not as serious as you think. This is not serious, Mrs. Huo glared. You have been exhausted all your life, and I don't know how you led troops to fight before. If I'm really wilted, can you give me 2 sons, Grandpa Huo said slyly, winking in a very funny way. Mrs. Huo was stunned, then she understood what the old man meant, and scolded, you old frivolous, mean, I'm talking to you about serious matters, don't talk nonsense. Fortunately, there are no children, otherwise I would be embarrassed to death. Haha, Mr. Huo laughed and put his arm around his wife's shoulders. There are some things I can't tell you, but don't worry, the Zhou family. Hurry up and tell me, what happened to the Zhou family? Grandma Huo was anxious, and she really wanted to step forward and tickle the old man a few times, saying that he would lose his temper when it came to the key point. Those people have already started to move the Zhou family. Grandpa Huo stretched out 4 fingers and whispered, I was fanning the flames behind, adding fuel to the fire, and adding insult to injury. As a veteran of countless trials, Mrs. Huo was naturally not a pushover, and she was very sensitive, and she understood immediately. Haha, I really don't need to say that. With Zhou Yuan here, we will fall out with the Zhou family sooner or later. Instead of letting them stab us unexpectedly, we might as well take the initiative and stab them a few times. Mrs. Huo smiled. Her grandson was not something that anyone could calculate. The Zhou family should learn a lesson for what they have done over the years. But the Zhou family has always worked for those people. How could they cut off the Zhou family? The situation is a bit complicated and can't be explained in a few words. Grandpa Huo didn't want to tell his wife about those intrigues. You just need to know that Zhou Yuan is not qualified to harass Yingzhe in the future. Okay, I believe you. If you don't say it, I won't ask. Mrs. Huo nodded. She believed in the old man. I remember that there was a retreat that year. Everyone withdrew. The few medical staff she brought with them were very slow because they had to take care of the wounded and fell behind. Everyone thought that Lao Huo had taken people away, but they didn't expect that when they were surrounded by the Japanese devils, Lao Huo came back to save them. At that time, she knew that Lao Huo was a man of his word and believed in him all her life. As for their granddaughter Huo Yingqi, let her stay in the unit in Nanji. Cut off her contact with Zhou Yuan and let her suffer for a few years. I hope she can realize her mistakes and be very disappointed with this granddaughter who is so stubborn. Zhou Yuan's climbing Huo Yingzhe's bed also made Huo Zheqian and Huo's wife sigh. The two talked privately many times. Let Yingqi and Zhou Yuan stay away from each other in the future. Don't let them continue to get along. Huo Zheqian said that he didn't want his daughter to be influenced by Zhou Yuan. Little did he know that his daughter was already the same as Zhou Yuan. Those who are close to Zhu are red, and those who are close to ink are black. The two of them have been together for more than a day or two, but for more than 10 years. Even the cleanest pot bottom has several layers of thick potash. I know, I will arrange for her work to be arranged farther away in the future, Huo's wife replied, consistent with her husband's. Please subscribe to the genuine version and give rewards. The Sweetness of the 70s. Author, Chi Sing Cao. Chapter 247. Chapter 247 Misfortune in the Family, 1600 plus. 245. They thought that someone was going to investigate them. Once they were targeted by these people, they would be either traitors or very unlucky. Either of these things could lead to the destruction of the whole family. Just when they were trembling with fear, they heard what the security department said and realized that it was about Zhou Yuan and Huo Yingzhe. Although Zhou Yuan climbed into bed and made them feel ashamed, this was only Zhou Yuan's personal behavior and did not represent the entire Zhou family. At most, some punishment to Zhou Yuan will not shake the foundation of the Zhou family, so it is nothing. After doing the investigation and leaving, The Zhou family breathed a sigh of relief. Lao Zhou, the Huo family has gone too far. They actually insulted our Yuan family like this, Mrs. Zhou said angrily. Zhou Yuan went to Huo Yingjia's research institute. She thought that she could definitely win over Huo Yingjia with her granddaughter's beauty. I never expected that my granddaughter would be so useless. Not only did she fail to capture Huo Yingjia, but she was transferred out of the institute on false charges, expelled from the party, and received severe punishment. After hearing this, Mr. Zhou was secretly angry, feeling that the Huo family looked down on others and did not give the Zhou family face. However, during the Chinese New Year, the Huo family had already said that Huo Yingjia already had a girl he liked, and it would be wrong for his granddaughter to pounce on Huo Yingjia. Don't be ridiculous. How are you going to tell the Huo family? Mr. Zhou said angrily with a red face. Are you saying that your girl is shameless and climbs into bed? Upon hearing this, Mrs. Zhou's face stiffened. She had used this trick to successfully climb into bed and force the old man to divorce his wife, who was a loser at home. Then, what do you think we should do? Mrs. Zhou was usually very aloof, but she did not dare to make mistakes in front of Mr. Zhou and obeyed the old man's arrangements. After Yuan comes back from being punished, teach her well and find her a job in Yanjing. If there is a suitable one, marry her off, Mr. Zhou said. By the way, that guy from the Chen family is pretty good. Go and find out, inquire about. After hearing this, Mrs. Zhou also knew that the old man was in trouble. Now that the Huo family was in the limelight, the Zhou family could not confront him head-on, but could only avoid his sharp edge. Okay, I'll go take a look, Mrs. Zhou said. My granddaughter is so good-looking and there are many people she likes. There must be someone better than Huo Yingjia. That's right. When Yuan comes back, you should focus more on your granddaughter. Don't go around gossiping all day long. You should also do something serious, Mr. Zhou said, without waiting for Mrs. Zhou to speak. Turned around and went to the study room on the second floor. Mrs. Zhou was angry, but she didn't dare to say more, so she could only hold her breath. Mr. Zhou entered the study room and found an inconspicuous book on the bookshelf. In it, there was a woman with a bright smile holding a 4 or 5-year-old boy with a tiger-like head. After so many years, I wonder how their mother and son are doing now. A quick calculation shows that my son is already in his 40s, so he should be married and have children, right? Alas, one wrong step, one wrong step. It's all his fault for not being strong-willed at the beginning. After Mr. Zhou remarried, he also gave birth to a son, but this son was not successful, so he focused on raising his grandson and granddaughter. So far, his grandson has performed well and has a bright future, but it is this granddaughter that makes him very dissatisfied. If people don't like you, don't bother them. Why would you stick to someone's cold butt when they're not happy about it? Suddenly Mr. Zhou realized that Zhou Yuan was the exact replica of Zhou Ziulan. In order to achieve your own goals, you can do anything. It's just that the Huo family was not the one who swallowed his anger at first, and would not care about Zhou Yuan's reputation at all, so the investigation team came to visit. Hey, our family is unlucky, Mr. Zhou sighed softly in the study. If he hadn't acted recklessly and gotten divorced, he might have been like the old Huo family. Alas, it's hard to look back on the past. It's better to deal with the matter in front of you. Speaking of Zhang Lifang, when Huo Jekan received his son's first letter, he had a lot of opinions about Huo Yingqi. Hey, what do you think this girl Yingqi thinks? Obviously Yingjia is her cousin and is close to her, but why does she think about Zhou Yuan in everything? Doesn't she know how much trouble this will bring to Yingjia? Zhang Lifang muttered, this matter cannot be ambiguous. I want to write to my parents-in-law and my eldest brother and sister-in-law and let them talk about Yingqi. Huo Jekan also had a headache. The only girl in the family, Huo Yingqi, was so loved that she developed such a temper. It was very sad. You, don't be anxious yet, Huo Jekan said comfortingly. Besides, that girl Yinki can see Tianation's address, so she blames us for not receiving the letter. Let's forget about it. We will discuss it privately during the Chinese New Year. Let's talk to our parents here so that we don't worry the elderly. When Zhang Lifang saw her husband saying this, she knew it was her fault. There was no one else at home, so she put the letter in the drawer without locking it. Huo Yinki came over and found Tianation's address easily. Fortunately, Tian Tian believed in her son, otherwise there would have been a misunderstanding and who knows what trouble would have happened. I will bear it this time. If there is a next time, I will immediately tell my parents-in-law and mother-in-law that I will not care about the face of my eldest brother and sister-in-law, Zhang Lifang said. She was very dissatisfied with Huo Yinki, who had her elbows turned outwards. She hurt the girl in vain. Unexpectedly, a few days later, I received another letter from Huo Yingzhe. This time, Zhang Lifang was so angry that she immediately wrote a letter to Yanjing's parents-in-law, eldest brother and sister-in-law, explaining Huo Yinki's role in it, and asked her parents-in-law to properly handle the relationship with the Zhou family. Her words were very angry, expressing even if Huo Yingzhe was a bachelor, she would not agree with Zhou Yuanyuan being her daughter-in-law. You said you're a good girl, why are you so shameless? Zhang Lifang tossed and turned, unable to fall asleep, so she woke Huo Jekan, wanting to hear her husband's opinion. Ah! Huo Jekan yawned and rubbed his eyes. It's so late, why aren't you sleeping yet? In the past few days, my wife has been restless because of her son's affairs. He also tried to persuade her, but it seemed that she couldn't listen. Hey, aren't I worried about my son and Tian Tian? These two are outside, and I don't know when they can be transferred back. Think about it, if there is any way, you can bring Tian Tian back first. Just for the sake of it, I feel more at ease. Zhang Lifang really wants He Tian Tian to be her daughter-in-law, and her son also likes it, so everyone is happy. But things can't be perfect, and someone just crosses paths. She wasn't worried about her son, she was worried about He Tian Tian. After all, a little girl was out there, and she had no one to discuss things with. It was rare that this girl was so sincere to Yingzhe that she didn't believe the scam set by Zhou Yuanyuan. Otherwise. Oh, what a shame. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Sweetness of the Seventies. Author, Chi Sing Cao. Chapter 248. 246. Huo Jekan disagrees. It's not possible now. There might still be something going on here in Nanji. Huo Jekan said, I'm about to transfer Mr. He and his wife out. What? When Zhang Lifang heard this, she couldn't sleep even more. Didn't you clarify it to the organization? Why do you still need to transfer it outside? Huo Jekan lamented, this moment, that moment. Nanji is a place of right and wrong. I am in the department and cannot leave, and because Lao He's family is here, I am helpless in doing things. I want to use the opportunity of supporting agricultural development in remote areas to bring Lao He and his wife also transferred to Hawaii City. In this case, Lao He is not the subject of investigation and supervision, but a dedicated agricultural researcher. Zhang Lifang was shocked and unsure. Is this good or bad? If we go to Huaishi, can we be together with Tian Tian? Zhang Lifang asked. Shuping misses her daughter so much that she can't eat or sleep well. It's possible, Huo Jekan said, there are many mountains and little land over there. If you can plant fruit trees and adapt to local conditions, it would be a good decision. As you know, the staff of Hawaii City are applying. Who in the north has the energy to pay attention to Hawaii City at the moment? The matter was kicked directly to the bottom, so I wanted to accept it. Then this will have no impact on Lao He and his wife, right? Zhang Lifang said nervously, Lao Huo, you can't harm Lao He and his wife. Our two families have been neighbors for more than 10 years and have such a good relationship, and there are Yingzhi and Tian in between. Don't mess around with your marriage. Huo Jekan hugged his wife and said with a smile, of course I will not harm Lao He's family. I am protecting them. Instead of being investigated all the time in Nan City, it is better to go to Hawaii City to give full play to my strengths and make my own contributions. In this case, Lao He and his wife's profile is definitely a good one. Hearing what her husband said, Zhang Lifang was slightly relieved, but she still said cautiously, Lao Huo, ask Lao He first. If they are not willing, don't force it. Okay, I understand, I won't force them, Huo Jekan said. Okay, it's getting late, go to bed quickly, I have a lot of things to do tomorrow. With her husband's guarantee, Zhang Lifang fell asleep and had long forgotten that she had been led astray by her husband. The topic had changed to He Jingyu and Wang Shuping. Huo Jekan found an opportunity to discuss this matter with He Jingyu. He Jingyu was stunned and asked, do you want me to go? Their Agricultural Science Research Institute also received a notice, hoping that they would show their dedication and sign up voluntarily. However, the notice has been issued for several days, and no one is willing to leave their hometown and go to remote mountainous areas. There are indeed many mountains in Hawaii City, Ontario, and the conditions are much more difficult than in Nan City, Jiangsu Province. I also know that the conditions there are difficult, but I also suggested that you and your siblings go there for your own good, Huo Jekan explained. First of all, the situation in Yanjing is unclear, and Nanji is not stable, so you stay, it will definitely be affected. Secondly, if you take the initiative to sign up and contribute to places with difficult conditions, no one can use your family's overseas connections to make an issue, so you and your wife, even Tian, it is very safe. Finally, Tian is in Tai County in Hawaii City. If you handle it well and choose Tai County, you can meet Tian often. Huo Jekan's analysis was clear and logical, while He Jingyu fell into deep thought. Although he and his wife worked the hardest and achieved the most results in the research institute, due to this relationship, no matter how much they did, they would not be promoted. They felt aggrieved more than once, but there was nothing they could do. The reasons you mentioned are very good. Compared with Nan City, Hawaii City is more suitable for my research. The food grown in the farmland is not enough to eat, let alone growing fruit trees. It is indeed possible to go to places with many mountains. Make achievements, He Jingyu said. I will go back and talk to Shuping. If she agrees, I will go to the unit to sign up voluntarily. Okay, you two, please discuss it carefully, Huo Jekan said. I'll tell you a few words in private, but you must not let it out. He Jingyu responded sternly and said, just tell me, I'll keep it a secret. Nanji is greatly influenced by Yanjing. Who knows what will happen in the future? On the other hand, Ontario, because it is remote and has many mountains and little land, Yanjing does not pay much attention to, so the development of the situation is easy to control. You will definitely not be in danger if you go there, believe me, Huo Jekan whispered, explaining to He Jingyu so that He Jingyu wouldn't worry. This is also the result of discussions with my son and father a few years ago. He Jingyu nodded and said, I believe you. If Huo Jekan wanted to deal with him, there would be no need to go to such trouble. He felt that the atmosphere in Nanji was a bit subtle, so leaving might be a good choice. After He Jingyu returned, he told his wife Wang Shuping what Huo Jekan meant. Wang Shuping thought for a moment and said, Lao He, let's go. He Jingyu was surprised and asked, why are you so decisive this time? Wang Shuping smiled bitterly and said, I have felt uncomfortable in my work since half a month ago. The person responsible for supervising and investigating me often appears behind me unexpectedly and scared me several times. I think the situation may have changed. It's no good if we stay here. Now if we go out in the name of support, those people can't investigate me. Wang Shuping was really scared. She didn't want to live like this anymore. It would be even better if I could meet my daughter in Hawaii City. If you don't tell me, I don't care. It's been the same around me recently, He Jingyu suddenly realized. Fortunately, Lao Huo is here, otherwise we really don't know how to escape this difficulty. Yes, let's go talk to Lao Huo now, Wang Shuping urged, agreeing tonight and applying when we get to the unit tomorrow. Although Huo Jekan and Zhang Lifang were reluctant to let them go, they also knew that Nanshi was not suitable for them to stay now, so they could only wish them good luck in Huishi. When Wang Shuping returned home, she packed up her belongings and locked them up to prevent them from being stolen. As for the things passed down from their family's ancestors, they hide them in very secret places that no one else would even think of. This time when they went to Hawaii City, they didn't plan to dig it out. They kept it inside until they came back to dig out these things. This house belongs to their He family, and He Jingyu's name is written on the land use certificate. As long as their family of 3 is alive, she won't worry about anyone robbing their yard. Early the next morning, He Jingyu and Wang Shuping applied to their units respectively and responded to the unit's call to go to Hawaii City. The director of the institute was very happy and praised them on the spot for their dedication without fear of hardship and fatigue, and wrote excellent comments on their files. At the same time, a commendation meeting was held for the couple as a typical example, calling on them to learn from the selfless dedication of He Jingyu and Wang Shuping. He Jingyu received the transfer order and set off in 3 days. Before departure, they had to pack their luggage. They were a little nervous at first, but they were completely relieved when they saw that the attitude of the company towards them had changed a lot. This decision is correct. I recommend Xian's novel Hello, Pretender, and I will try my best to fulfill your dream. Let your husband be at your service all over the world. She was about to cry but had no tears. Can you change your wish? Please subscribe to the official version. Please give me a reward. 6 updates. The Sweetness of the 70s. Author, Chi Sing Cao. Chapter 249. It's early summer now, so there's no need to bring cotton padded clothes, only summer clothes. As for the winter clothes, just like He Tian did last time, they arrived in Hawaii City and asked Zhang Lifang to send them over after they settled down. He Jingyu and Wang Shuping did not talk to He Tian, so when He Tian saw her parents later, she was extremely surprised. At the same time, Zhou Yuan returned to her home in Yanjing after being imprisoned for a period of time. She was severely criticized by her family at first, but as a beloved girl in the family, she soon gained everyone's understanding. However, Zhou Yuan did not dare to mention Huo Yingzhe again, so she could only stay at home for a month and then go to work in the community hospital. The Zhou family and the Huo family are at odds with each other, and they keep making little moves. Huo Yingzhe devoted himself to his work in the research institute and made rapid progress, living up to the expectations of Chief Engineer Sun and Director Liu. He worked so hard because he actually wanted to finish it as soon as possible and then go find He Tian. He wanted to tell He Tian personally that he would not change in this life. Let's talk about He Tian, this silly girl, walking around Hawaii City with Qi Ling, Niu Dajin, and Qi Xiaoyan. We didn't eat outside at noon, but at Kailing's home. He Tian arrived at Kailing's home and met someone she had met once before. The model worker he met on the train last time when He Tian hurried home to apply for a certificate was Zhang Runan, the workshop director of the Huishi tractor factory. Sister Zhang, is that you? He Tian has a good memory and recognized Zhang Runan immediately. Zhang Runan was stunned for a moment, looking He Tian up and down, and then suddenly realized, saying, oh, it's just, that little girl on the train. Zhang Runan didn't call her name right away, and He Tian guessed that she might have forgotten her name. After all, we just met once on the train, so it's normal that we can't remember her name. He Tian listened and said with a smile, yes, my name is He Tian, you have always been my role model. Zhang Runan liked He Tian before, and now he was even more happy when he heard He Tian's compliment. He smiled and said, "Oh, you're so polite. Sit down, sit down. Kailing, come here, introduce these two to me." A young man. Qi Ling was curious, but since his friends were present, he would not ask carefully. He smiled and said, "Mom, this is my friend Niu Dajin, and this is my friend Qi Rongjun's sister Qi Xiaoyan. She came to take the art troupe exam this time. This is comrade He Tian, you know each other, so I won't introduce you." "Oh, these are Dajin and Xiaoyan," Zhang Runan said affectionately, "they are both good children. You guys sit down. Kailing, you say hello and I will cook. There are still 2 dishes left, and then we can eat." "Don't bother," Auntie Qi Xiaoyan said, "it's not anyone else, just eat whatever you want. It's just common food, nothing good," Zhang Runan said with a smile and went to the kitchen to work. Although Zhang Runan said this, the aroma coming from the kitchen made everyone understand that they were words of modesty. Nowadays, material resources are tight. It is not easy to buy a meal with fish and meat. Fortunately, when Niu Dajin and Qi Xiaoyan came, they brought some food, probably more than 10 kilograms of rice. "Fortunately, I brought something with me, otherwise I would be embarrassed to eat at Kailing's house. You guys sit down and I'll get you some tea." Qi Ling invited everyone to the living room while he poured the tea. Qi Ling's home is a single-family house. The main house is a 4-room tile-roofed house, and there are 3 wing rooms on the east side. There is about half of the yard in which vegetables are grown. If you grow it at home, you don't need to buy it. That is to say, in Hawaii City, if you are in Nan City, you cannot grow vegetables in the yard. "Drink tea," Qi Ling said politely, "treat it as your own home, don't be polite." "I think you are the one who is being polite," Niu Dajin said. "By the way, after you recovered, your work went smoothly, right?" "It's not bad, we didn't embarrass our brothers," Qi Ling said with a smile. "I just solved a tomb robbery case and made a small contribution." "What about you?" Niu Dajin smiled honestly and said, "You and brother Rongjun are smart and suitable for doing this. I can't do it anymore. I went back to rehabilitation and was arranged to be a postman in the commune. Now I have been transferred to a civilian position. I am also a small clerk. I don't have a job like yours so beautiful." "You are out of touch when you say this," Qi Ling said with a smile. "Everything you do is to serve the people. By the way, I heard that you and Xiao Yan are engaged, but you are hiding it so secretly." Qi Rongjun cherished the sister very much, but he didn't expect that the new army would take her away. He Niu Dajin smiled honestly, "And you are 3 years older than me, you should have a partner, right?" Qi Ling smiled, glanced at He Tian, and said casually, "I'm so busy all day long, how can I find a partner? If you have a good girl by your side, you can introduce me to one." Qi Ling seemed to be joking when he said this, but only he knew that half of it was true. Niu Dajin knew that He Tian had a partner, so when he heard Qi Ling say this, he didn't think of He Tian. "I am surrounded by men and there are no good girls," Niu Dajin laughed. "Instead of trying to find a solution from me, you might as well let Aunt Zhang help you choose one. This stupid thing is still as solid as before." He made it so obvious that this guy didn't even notice it at all. At this moment, Zhang Runan came out of the kitchen, carrying 2 dishes, and said, "Go to the bathroom to wash your hands, we will eat soon. I cooked 6 dishes today, including sweet and sour fish, braised pork, a plate of scrambled eggs with leeks, and 3 vegetarian dishes. The portions are quite generous." In order to entertain his son's guests, Zhang Runan also made a pot of rice. "Don't mind if you're not good at cooking," Zhang Runan said politely, "there's still some wine at home. Kailing, you're on vacation and have a few drinks with the army." Niu Dajin waved his hand and said, "No, Aunt Zhang, we have to look at the list later, so we won't drink. Since you have important matters, I won't advise you to drink, Zhang Runan said. If you don't drink, then eat delicious food. Thank you, Aunt Zhang, Niu Dajin smiled. Like everyone else, He Tian changed her name to Aunt Zhang and was too embarrassed to call her sister Zhang anymore. The meal was enjoyed by both host and guest, but Zhang Runan still had something to do. Before he could clear away the dishes, he was called away by his colleagues. It was said that there was something going on at the tractor factory. He Tian, Qi Xiaoyan took action and sent the dishes and chopsticks into the kitchen. Qi Ling took advantage of Qi Xiaoyan and He Tian to enter the kitchen, and whispered, Dajin, were you pretending to be stupid just now? What are you talking about, brother Qi? Niu Dajin was puzzled. He was not pretending to be stupid. You know who I am. I don't have a partner. You also know that Xiaoyan has such a beautiful sister. Why don't you introduce her to me? Qi Ling's mind was full of excitement. The moment he saw He Tian, I was attracted. Qi Ling admitted that he was attracted to He Tian's appearance. After a brief half-day of getting along, he realized that He Tian had a good tutor and was a good girl. Since he has no partner, he naturally wants to give it a try. Recommend 2 bean paste buns to my friends. Heo farming, rebirth of spiritual mind and wisdom. Baomei is not easy to mess with. Baomei is not easy to mess with. The sweetness of the 70s. Author, Chi Xing Cao. Chapter 250. Chapter 250 Joy, Relief, 1620 plus. 248. Niu Dajin suddenly realized that what his friend said was very sweet. If it were someone else, it might still be possible, but for He Tian, there is no chance. You, don't think about it? He Tian has a childhood sweetheart and the relationship is very good. When the age is reached, it will be a matter of proof, Niu Dajin said, explaining to his comrades that this was the first time they met. At most I have a good impression of He Tian, but I can't say I like him, let alone love him. Now that it's clear, judging from the comrades' view of right and wrong, we can probably stop it in moderation. Sure enough, when Qi Ling heard this, he said with a little regret, oh, this good girl is already married to a famous girl, so there is no fate. You are so good, why don't you worry about being a good girl? Niu Dajin said, don't just look at the appearance, you are also very good on the inside. Then if Qi Xiaoyan is not good looking, will you be attracted to her? Qi Ling asked back, this man has found a good looking partner, so why shouldn't he be allowed to find a good looking partner? He, Niu Dajin smiled honestly, it's just a coincidence, it's a coincidence. When Qi Ling saw He Tian, Qi Xiaoyan came from the kitchen and stopped the topic. Although it is a bit regretful, he is not the kind of person who is obsessed with stalking. He cannot be a lover, but he can still be a friend. A few people chatted at home, and Qi Ling asked He Tian and Qi Xiaoyan to rest in the guest room. Qi Xiaoyan and He Tian didn't refuse. After taking a nap, they went to look at the list. When I woke up in the afternoon, it was already past 3 o'clock. After washing my face and arranging my hair, the 4 of us went to the examination room to look at the results. After arriving at the examination room, it was already past 4 o'clock. Dozens of people stood outside the examination room, all anxiously waiting for news. Brother Qi, why are you here? A girl asked in surprise. Mom, look, Brother Qi is here too. The middle-aged woman smiled and said, yes, Qi Ling, are you here to see our Xiaoxiu take the exam? Qi Ling looked at Yang Xiaoxiu, then at the middle-aged woman next to him, with a bit of embarrassment on his face, and said with a smile, Xiaoxiu is here to take the exam too. When the middle-aged woman heard this, her face became ugly. She didn't come to see their Xiaoxiu at all. She glanced at He Tian and others beside Qi Ling, and she felt even more unhappy. How could such an outstanding person as Chi Ling get mixed up with these country bumpkins? Yes, the middle-aged woman said, Xiaoxiu's grades are good, she will definitely pass the exam. Chi Ling smiled and said, then I'll congratulate Xiaoxiu and Aunt Lu in advance. Come to my house for dinner tonight, Lu Ye said enthusiastically, as if he didn't even see He Tian and the three people beside Chi Ling. Chi Ling politely refused, let's go some other time, I want to accompany my friends today. Oh. Lu Ye said disappointedly, then let's wait for another day. Yang Xiaoxiu wanted to say something else, but was stopped by a middle-aged woman. She turned around and squeezed into the front seat, waiting to see the results. Yang Xiaoxiu was unwilling, but she couldn't resist her mother. Before leaving, she actually looked at He Tian and Chi Xiaoyan with unkind eyes. Seeing that the person was gone, Niu Dajin poked at Kai Ling's neighbor next to him and said, is that one of your suitors? Chi Ling smiled and said nonchalantly, don't talk nonsense, we are just neighbors, and Yang Xiaoxiu is several years younger than me. Haha, trying to hide something is obvious. Everyone is not blind, it is clear at a glance whether they are talking nonsense. Enough of the topic, let's stop talking about Yang Xiaoxiu's mother and daughter. While waiting for the results, time became very slow, and Chi Xiaoyan became a little nervous. Xiaoyan, you are so good, you will definitely pass the exam, Niu Dajin comforted, holding Chi Xiaoyan's little hand where no one else could see it. He Tian was also a little nervous, but she didn't show it. Finally at 5 o'clock, 2 staff members posted a red list on the wall. The cattle army squeezed in hard this time, hoping to see the results as soon as possible. Niu Dajin was tall. Before he got inside, he saw Chi Xiaoyan's name. He was still in the first place. Seeing the result, Niu Dajin didn't want to squeeze in and wanted to get out. However, there were too many people and he couldn't squeeze out for a while. He could only face Chi Xiaoyan outside and said sweetly, I passed the exam. In order not to irritate others, Niu Dajin held back the following sentence, I got first place in the exam. Oh my god, I passed the exam. He Tian was excited, Xiaoyan, you passed the exam. The better Chi Xiaoyan is, the less guilty He Tian will feel. Only then did Chi Xiaoyan come back to her senses and asked, you passed the exam, did you really pass the exam? Yes, you passed the exam, and you will be a powerful person from now on, He Tian said, I'm proud of you. Chi Ling was also happy for Chi Xiaoyan and said with a smile, congratulations, Xiaoyan. Seeing the new army coming out, He Tian asked again, when will the report be made? Niu Dajin was stunned, scratched his head and said, haha, there were too many people inside. I didn't squeeze in, so I saw Xiaoyan's name on the red list, so I came out to announce the good news. As for the other one written on a piece of red paper, what, I didn't see it? It's okay. We'll go see it again when there are less people, Chi Xiaoyan said with a smile. Anyway, there is plenty of time, so just wait. As the results were announced, some people were ecstatic, while others were disappointed and even shed tears sadly. Coming out of the crowd, Yang Xiaoxiu said excitedly, Brother Chi, I passed the exam. Congratulations then, Chi Ling said politely, not in an intimate manner, but in a normal tone. Lu Ye was a little dissatisfied with Chi Ling's attitude, but now that her daughter had passed the exam and she was feeling proud, she automatically ignored the bad things and said, okay, everyone at home is waiting for news, Chi Ling, let's go back first. Goodbye Aunt Lu, Chi Ling said. After Yang Xiaoxiu and her daughter left, there were far fewer people watching the list. Niu Dajin, Chi Xiaoyan and the others quickly arrived in front of the red list and carefully looked at the other red list. They passed the exam and will have to take the physical examination tomorrow. After the physical examination, there was no problem. They will come here 7 days later and report to the unit together. If it were before, Chi Xiao Yan would be worried about her body. But not anymore, her body is great and there is no problem at all. In the evening, Niu Daijin treated guests to dinner at the guest house. There are so many of them that it's hard to go to Kailing's house to eat. It was getting dark. Qi Ling said goodbye and would come back tomorrow morning to accompany Qi Xiaoyan to the hospital for a physical examination. The physical examination the next day went very smoothly. Qi Xiaoyan successfully passed the physical examination and received the admission letter of honor. Declining Kailing's invitation, Niu Daijin bought a ticket and took Qi Xiaoyan and He Tian back to Qijia village, wanting to share the good news with his family. Time is very urgent, and she can only stay at home for a few days. Qi Xiaoyan is about to leave, and she also wants to spend more time with her family. Fortunately, the bus station in Huai City had tickets to Tai County in the afternoon, and it was already 7 o'clock in the evening when we arrived in Tai County. Here, there is no need to stay in a guest house. Niu Daijin takes people directly to Niu Lily. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Sweetness of the 70s. Author, Chi Sing Cao. Chapter 251. Chapter 251 The Secret Room, 1640 plus. 249. Niu Lily was very happy when she heard that Qi Xiaoyan had passed the exam. Before village chief Qi came to pick them up, Niu Daijin had already found an ox cart to take Qi Xiaoyan and He Tian home. The grain that He Tian asked Niu Lily to buy for her was also loaded on the ox cart. Not bad, not bad. Village chief Qi was very happy when he heard that his daughter had passed the exam, which diluted the sadness on his face. Seeing that her father had not been in good spirits these days, Qi Xiaoyan thought he was worried about her. She smiled and comforted her. Dad, my exam went very well. I have made you worried these days. My daughter is so good, I'm not worried, village chief Qi said proudly, driving the bullock cart back. Then why are you so tired these days? Qi Xiaoyan asked worriedly. The weather was really hot and she kept wiping the sweat from her head. Village chief Qi didn't want to spoil the fun, but when he saw his daughter's concerned eyes, he sighed and said, "Hey, from the Chinese New Year to now, not a drop of rain has fallen in our Tai County." He Tian was stunned for a moment, and then she remembered this. In Huai City, although it is drought, it is much better than here in Tai County. Something big is going to happen in Tai County. He Tian felt a headache when she thought of the nervous little turtle in the barrier. Because Qi Xiaoyan was taking the exam, she was also anxious and nervous, and she forgot about the little turtle in the barrier who kept shouting that she was hungry. Are we really going to cause a disaster? Qi Xiaoyan frowned and looked around. There was no water in the river, and the trees were listless and dying. Our village is okay. The snow on the mountains has melted, and we can still get some water to irrigate the ground. But there is only so much snow in the back mountains, and it is almost gone. There will be more places to use water in the future, so what should we do, Qi-kun? This is what worries me. He Tian said nothing, thinking about how to appease the little turtle after returning. She always felt that the little spinner turtle was pretending to be crazy. In the face of drought, it might have a solution, but it didn't say anything. After I go back tonight, I will torture the nervous little spinner turtle together with the Snake King. Everyone's good mood was somewhat diluted by the drought. Okay, there will be a road before the car reaches the mountain. Xiaoyan, you don't have to worry about your family. You can go to the army with peace of mind, village chief Qi comforted him. It was rare for his daughter to get her wish, so she couldn't be unhappy anymore. Qi Xiaoyan also knew that she couldn't help, so she could only comfort her father and said, "Dad, I get paid for my work. I will send it all to you. Maybe the life at home will be better. These are not things you should worry about." As long as you work hard, it will be the greatest comfort to Dad, Village Chief Chi said with a smile, his simple face full of love, which made He Tian Tian envious. It's great to have Mom and Dad. It's better to have Mom and Dad around. By the time we arrived at Kijia village, it was already 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Compared with other places, the crops in Kijia village's fields have sprouted, but they are dry due to lack of water. First, He Tian Tian was sent back to Grandma Chi San's house, and He Tian Tian moved down 2 bags of grain. Seeing He Tianation's foresight, Village Chief Chi thought about going back, sorting out the tickets and money at home, and buying food. Grandma Chi San was very happy to see He Tian Tian back and made brown sugar eggs for He Tian Tian. After He Tian Tian ate the eggs, Grandma Chi San whispered, "Tian Tian girl, put these bags of grain in the cellar." Okay, He Tian Tian agreed. In times of famine, food is life. He Tian Tian picked up a bag and sent it to the cellar that she usually used not far from the kitchen. "It's not that cellar," Grandma Chi San reminded in a low voice, "come with me." Grandma Chi San took He Tian Tian around to the cow shed in the backyard and whispered, "Push the cow trough to the left. The cellar is under the cow shed." He Tian Tian was stunned and asked, "There are 2 cellars at home?" "Yes, we usually use the cellar in the front yard. The one at the back is for hiding things," Grandma Chi San said. "We put some of the food we received from the team in the cellar in the front yard, but the ones we bought can't be left there. At this critical moment, these 2 bags of food are our life-saving food." He Tian Tian entered the cow shed and pushed the trough hard, but found that it couldn't be pushed. "Why are you in a hurry?" Grandma Chi San said with a smile. After saying that, she came in with a cane and kicked the 3-inch golden lotus on an inconspicuous stone in the corner. The stone shrank a little. "It's okay now." "Oh, Grandma, you still have a mechanism at home," He Tian Tian said in surprise. "She has gained a lot of experience. This was originally my family's old house. I knew there was a cellar in the house, but I didn't know where it was. My brothers and sisters have all left and gone to the city to find a future. I didn't leave. I served my parents. My father was here. She told me that she had the cellar at home before she died," Grandma Chi San explained. "Only my husband and I know about this place. Now that you are my granddaughter, I tell you so that I won't be useless one day. People know this place." He Tian Tian hesitated. Such a high-end cellar, and it was also a dense cellar in the house of the largest landowner in Tai County, so it must not be empty inside. "Grandma, this is the secret place of your ancestors, why don't you bring me here?" He Tian Tian hesitated. After all, Grandma Chi San still has descendants. "Okay, you are my granddaughter, why is it bad?" Grandma Chi San said. "Hurry up and push that trough again. It's broad daylight now, we have to hurry up." He Tian Tian saw that Grandma Chi San insisted that she didn't want to take possession of the contents anyway, so she pushed the trough with openness. Sure enough, she could push it. There was a black hole 3 feet long and more than a foot wide, with stones inside. Ladder made of bricks. Grandma Chi San went down carefully, took a match and lit the oil lamp on the cellar wall. This is no longer a cellar, it should be considered a secret room. He Tian Tian moved 2 bags of food down and then took a closer look at the secret room. There are more than 30 steps from the staircase, which shows that there is a height of 10 meters from the ground to the bottom of the secret room. If you don't know where the mechanism is, you can't dig it out even if you dig 3 feet into the ground. Under a few dim oil lamps, He Tian Tian discovered that there were actually 2 rooms in this secret room. One was filled with household items, pots and pans, as if to live a good life, and the other was tightly closed, presumably to place some valuables. He Tian Tian was curious, but didn't ask. "Grandma, the food is put away, let's go up," He Tian Tian said. The secret room had not been ventilated for a long time, and the smell was not good. Seeing that there was no greed in He Tianation's eyes, Grandma Chi San felt more relieved and said, Tian Tian girl, I will take you to that room to have a look. Tian Tian was stunned, quickly shook her head and refused. Grandma, although I am curious, after all, this is something from your ancestors. It is not appropriate for me to see it. The Sweetness of the Seventies. Author, Chi Sing Cao. Chapter 252. Chapter 252 Treasure, 1660 plus. 250. Anyway, some of these things will be given to He Tian Tian in the future. Grandma Chi San has her own plans. She is afraid that she will not be able to wait until the day her child comes back, so she hopes that He Tian Tian can pass the things here to her descendants. He Tian Tian is not greedy, so she feels relieved to put these things in her hands. Furthermore, since He Tian Tian recognized her goddaughter, she had already thought of giving her some. Since it belongs to my ancestor, you can see it if I let you see it, Grandma Chi San insisted, pulling He Tian Tian and pushing open the door of the room. It was dark inside, and Grandma Chi San lit the lamp again. When the light came on inside, He Tian Tian was dumbfounded. There were stacks of small yellow croakers on the shelf, and 2 boxes of foreign money beside them. The other few boxes placed inside must be worth more than the ocean of gold. Grandma, I believe your family used to be the largest landowner in Tai County, He Tian Tian said with emotion. These things, let alone now, were a huge fortune even before. After hearing this, Grandma Chi San smiled triumphantly and said, that's right, my father secretly hid this. It turns out that our family has more, but they were all beaten by local tycoons and divided their fields. There are so many good things at home, but I don't know whose hands will it fall into. I heard from my mother that I have some at home, but I'm young and my parents didn't tell me where they are, He Tian Tian said with emotion, but I'm sure that my family's private collection is definitely not as large as yours. You will have more in the future. I have already thought about the gold and the ocean here, as well as the things on both sides. If my son comes back to me, you will divide the things equally, half for you and half for my son. If he didn't come, then it's all yours. Grandma Chi San knew clearly that if her son died, all these things would be left to He Tian Tian. If the son is not dead, cannot come, or does not want to come back, there is no need to give him these things. After hearing this, He Tian Tian shook her head and said, Grandma, stop talking. As long as your descendants come to find you, give it all to him. There is no such thing as money, but if there is too much, that's all. He Tian Tian, a person who has lived 2 lifetimes, thinks very thoroughly. After the reform and opening up, if she has no other skills, she can still do a small business to make money just by selling braised pork for 10 years, and there is no need to covet these external things that do not belong to her. Okay, I will leave my last words and arrange everything, Grandma Chi San said, opening a box as she said it, and there was actually a box of jewelry inside. Grandma Chi San took out a jade hairpin, praised it, and said, hey, it's a pity that we are not allowed to wear these things now. When we were young, we wore bright clothes, and even poor people could wear them on their heads. The hair is red and there are flowers on it, but now it's all gray and black, and it's ugly. He Tian Tian pursed her lips and smiled. Although Grandma Chi San was calm on the outside, she was still a bit arrogant and petty like a landlord's lady in her heart. Yes, it is human nature to love beauty. I believe it will not always be like this, He Tian Tian explained, thinking of the colorful colors and various forms of clothes in later generations. They are indeed much better looking than the clothes today. I hope so, Grandma Chi San smiled and said, if I can't see that time, you have to wear more beautiful clothes and beautiful jewelry for me. By the way, this is my favorite hairpin. When you go to burn paper at my grave, you must wear it for me to see. He Tian Tian smiled and said, Grandma, live a good life. Maybe you will be able to wear nice clothes after a while. Hey, I'm getting older and can't wear those watery clothes anymore, Grandma Chi San said regretfully, remembering that when she was young, that life was called life. Sneeze, He Tianation's nose was a little itchy and she yawned, Grandma, the air is not good down there, let's go out. Grandma Chi-san nodded and said, okay, the food has been put away, it's time to go up. Grandma Chi-san reluctantly put the things back into the box. These good things could not be taken out and could only be kept in a secret room to gather dust. After blowing out the oil lamp, He Tian helped Grandma Chi-san out of the secret room and covered it again. Grandma Chi-san stepped on the original stone again. The trough was completely covered and she couldn't push it no matter how hard she pushed it. This weather is so hot, Grandma Chi-san muttered, I have to go wash up and wipe off the sweat. He Tian is covered in sweat. After washing up, the sun has set. Seeing that there was no water in the water tank, He Tian took a pole and 2 buckets and went to the spring pool at the entrance of the village to fetch water. Meeting some people along the way, He Tian greeted them warmly. When they arrived at the pool, He Tian saw Chi Ergu and Chi Ergu's new wife, Yang Xiuxiu. Sweet girl, come and carry water too, Chi Ergu said with a smile, pass the bucket down and I will carry the water for you. No need, second brother, you should stay with your sister-in-law. He Tian smiled and said, Chi Ergu is going to college soon and has a new wife to bring home. The two of them are inseparable and go together wherever they go. I don't want to disturb their world of two. Yang Xiuxiu looked shy and came over to get the He Tian bucket and said, Tian, let my second brother help you carry it. There has been a recent drought and the water in the pool has been reduced a lot. He Tian looked at the pool. Although the spring water was still gurgling out as before, there was more water flowing into the creek. This is a stream branched out by the village for irrigation. Thank you, second brother and second sister-in-law. He Tian smiled and said, since he was sincere, she couldn't refuse. Just as He Tian was thanking Chi Ergu, a small black dot appeared in front of He Tian. He heard another dong sound and the small black dot fell into the water. What fell into the water? Yang Xiuxiu asked Chi Ergu, who was fetching water in front of him. Chi Ergu answered while carrying water, I didn't see clearly. Could it be bird poop? Yang Xiuxiu asked. Their village was full of wells, and when she married into Kijia village, she was not used to carrying water from the wells. Farmers are not that particular. Our ancestors in Kijia village have been eating the water here for generations and it's fine, Chi Ergu said with a smile, helping He Tian carry up 2 buckets of water. Yang Xiuxiu smiled and said nothing. It was indeed like this. Her ancestors had been able to eat it for generations, but she, a new daughter-in-law from outside, disliked the water here. Furthermore, it hasn't rained this year, so it's good to have water to drink, and it's not that demanding. While Brother Chi was talking to Yang Xiuxiu, He Tian heard the words of the Snake King in his mind. I kicked out the little turtle that peed all day long, the Snake King said gloomily. There was water everywhere. If he hadn't seen that He Tian was very busy these days, he would have wanted to get the little turtle out.